society. It's missing element in the existing literature. It's the gap that you fill with your research approach. So, research gap, while working on the literature review of your dissertation research proposal, you need to identify the appropriate research gaps for an impactful research and demonstrate your expertise in the topic. But identifying the gaps is not an easy task. Focus on your area of research, read a lot, map your literature. So how will we identify research gap? From future research directives. Okay, it is very important. Sometimes students they don't understand where you will get the research gap. How will? Number one, you will research gap, you will get your gap from systematic literature review. If you have the table literature matrix, then you can find which variables are missing, which theory is missing, which methodology is missing. Everything you will find there. The second is where we will get the other sources, where we will get the research gap. From research, future research directives, you know, in most of the high impact factor journal, one of the field they wants from the researcher that what is your limitation and what is your future research directives. You can get the future research directives from the you will get the gaps from the future research directives. Then literature review, then you will get it from meta-analysis, systematic literature review, and conflict in findings. Suppose where you will get somebody got positive effect, somebody get negative effect, but you are in your context, then you will say we don't know in our context, in my study context, either it has the positive or negative. Somebody get positive, somebody get negative. So in your case, that is also a findings, conflicts in the finding. Conflict in methodology. Suppose the different methodologies, they what was their sample size, how they determine the sample size, what was their sampling techniques, either probability or non-probability sampling they used, what are the different tools they've been used for analysis. So these are the lagging in methodology, that is also. Then contextual gap. What is contextual gap? Can anybody say like this? What is contextual gap? What is contextual gap, brother?
Sir, the geographical area where the research is conducted.
Geographical area? Anybody have any good answer? Hello. Hopefully, actually, what is the context? Contextual gap. Suppose employee performance has been studied in suppose in the context of developed country, not in developing country like Bangladesh. So we can have a developed country develop. So it is a you can say geographical, but it might be in industrial as well. So suppose in pharmaceutical industry the employee performance has been studied, but not in garment industry context, or but not in leather industry context. So it might be the industry, it might be the sector, department, or country, geographical area. So the context might be different. So which context, what is the subject area, what is the in which context you where you want to generalize your study, so that is your context. Then what is theoretical gap? Suppose somebody nobody use this theory, so you are assuming that this theory are very suitable for this study, so you can use, and if it is not been used by somebody else. And up to date, it is suppose the study been done 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years back. So this study result we need to again, the a lot of changes comes over time. So we need to study updated study, so that we get the updated result, contemporary situation that need to know. So that's why it must be in update. Up to date is also a gap. The study been done 30 years, 40 years back, so what is the updated result? So that is also a gap. So these are the gaps, where you get the research gaps. The research gap finding process: mixed previous empirical result, positive, negative, significant, insignificant, conflicts in theoretical approach, conflict in empirical methods, arbitrage between literature, complex limited previous results, and conflicts arbitrage. Okay, how to write the research gaps? See how the researcher social compliance and employee productivity issues are examined satisfactorily in developed countries and also several developing nations, but no research is available that pursues to discourse this problem from the perspective of Bangladesh. So it is, what kinds of gap is it? Can anybody, theoretical gap or contextual gap? Hello?
Contextual gap.
Yes, contextual gap, mashallah. The next one is their study, Alam and Alias, in their study stated that further studies are needed to study the relationship between social compliance and employee productivity, employee work motivations. Sorry, social compliance and employee work motivation, as there are limited studies investigating the relationship of these two variables in the context of RMG industry of Bangladesh. It is contextual or theoretical?
It's theoretical, sir.
How it is theoretical, brother?
Because in the same context, the research has been done, but not enough researches.
Okay. Here the relationship, we are talking about the relationship between the variables, right? Yes. And it is the contextual as well, because the RNG industry also not been studied. So it is contextual as well as theoretical. Okay. Yes, 2% raise hands. Okay, please tell me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Can we use a country name, country as a gap if
Yes,
there
it
are
can be.
some
Yes,
studies
yes.
in other
Suppose
country?
this study not been done in the context of Pakistan, in the context of China, in the context of South Africa. So you can,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
can
yeah.
be, the country can be a
Okay,
context. Industry can be a
okay.
context,
Thank you.
sector, uh, uh, then economic condition, ethnic group. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
But the
Then,
country has, but the country has need so for their study.
yeah. There are
Okay,
rigorous
okay.
study needed on employee work motivation and employee performance, as there is a big scope to provide to improve productivity by motivating the employees of RNG industry of Bangladesh. So it is contextual as well as the theoretical. So this is how we write the research gaps. Now, okay. Now we'll talk about what is the research framework. A framework provides an explicit explanation why the problem under study exists by showing how the variables relate to each other. This is the called framework. And what is theory? A theory comprises generalized that systematically explain the relationship between a phenomena, between two phenomena, or between different variables. Its basic components are concepts. Thus, the theory is a set of statements, each of which express a relationship among the concepts. And you know the framework. And I have another workshop on research design, underpinning theories of research, and role of the theory in research, and mediating and moderating variable, and strategies to publish in impact factor journal in August. Hopefully you will join that workshop as well. I shall go in details about the theory, about the research framework, conceptual and theoretical research framework, and mediating moderating variables, mediated moderation model, moderated mediation model, or different models. I shall talk on that. Yeah, and research design as well. And studies is to publish high impact journal. Hopefully you will join there, and I shall deeply discuss on this particular, in this area I shall focus. So theoretical framework identifies a set of variables and relationships that should be examined in order to explain the phenomena, need not specify the direction of relationships or identify critical hypotheses. This is an example of a theoretical framework. Okay, what is conceptual framework? A conceptual framework is used to in research to outline possible courses of action or to present a preferred approach to an idea or thought. Okay, so developing your conceptual framework requires 5 main steps: identifying the relevant concepts or the variables, defining those concepts, then operationalizing of the concepts or the variables, identifying any moderating or intervening variables. What is intervening variables? Do anybody have any idea what is intervening variables?
Moderating and the mediating variables.
Normally intervening variables, we refer the third variable, that is the moderator. And normally moderator, we use moderator and mediator both, but moderator mainly we use as intervening variable, moderating variable. And mediator variable, uh, that also intervene, but we maybe you can both of them you can use, I think. Identify, but mostly we refer to moderator. Identifying the relationship between variables. So see, employee work motivation, this is a conceptual framework here. Social, under the social compliance, 5 independent variables are there under social compliance variables. And this is employee productivity is the depending variable. Employee work motivation is the mediating variable. So here you see total 16 hypotheses over here. Okay. See here, negative discrimination, harassment, and abuse. It has a negative motivation. It has a negative effect on employee productivity. Then see, this is normally this is the business performance is the dependent variable, and this performance is depend on the knowledge management, and this is knowledge acquisition, knowledge sharing, knowledge utilization is the independent variables. So this is very important, and most of the students they are confused, and they always ask what is the difference between conceptual framework and theoretical framework. So I am reading first. If you have any question, then again I will explain it. Theoretical framework is curled from an existing theory or theories in the literature that has already been tested and validated by others and is considered as an acceptable theory in the scholarly literature. That is called a theoretical framework. Okay, conceptual framework is the researcher's understanding of how the research problems will be explored. The specific direction of research will have to take, and the relationship between different variables in the study. While a whole theory may serve as one's theoretical framework, a conceptual framework is carefully put together in the form of conceptual model and immediately applied to the particular study. So theoretical framework is derived from the theory, while conceptual framework is derived from the concept. So do you understand a theoretical framework and conceptual framework? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Theoretical framework. Just I'm telling you, theoretical framework. Suppose Abraham Maslow's need hierarchy theory. You see, the physiological needs, safety needs, security needs, self-esteem, self-actualization, all of the. Suppose Herzberg two-factor theories. This is the framework. Suppose ZDR theories. So these are the framework for explaining the theory. But suppose this is a conceptual framework. See, here, this is not a theoretical framework. This is a conceptual framework. It is not a theory. When a theory represent through a framework, that is called the theoretical framework. And when a framework comes through a concept, that is called a conceptual framework. You got the point?
Yes, sir.
So this is called the mediator. A mediator variable is the variable that causes mediation in between dependent and independent variables. Pain is independent variable. We have three mediator, right? Here, depression, fatigue, and anxiety. And global quality of life is the dependent variable. And global news is our intervening variable or the moderator. You got the point? See, this is another. This is a moderation. What is moderation? This is IQ is the moderator. Moderation occurs when the relationship between two variables depends on a third variable. The third variable is referred to as the moderator variable or simply the moderator. IQ, suppose IQ is the moderator which influencing the relationship between hours of study and exam score. Actually, hours of study and the exam scores is depending upon the student's IQ level. If more IQ level is there, more IQ level, then it will strengthen the more impact over the relationship. And if the IQ level is weak, yeah, or low, then it will weaken the result of hours of study and exam score. Then development
Sir,
of
I have a
yes, yes, please.
question on
Yes, please.
moderation.
Yes, please.
Sir, in few papers, I've seen that financial literacy has been used as a moderator, whereas in other studies, it has been used as an independent variable.
Okay.
So, how do we decide whether financial literacy should be used as an independent variable or as a moderator?
Okay. It is sister. What is your name?
Sir, Sonal.
Soman. Okay.
Sonal, Sonal, SONL.
Sonan. Okay. Sister Sonan, some variables has a tendency. It can work as an independent variable, and even can be work as a mediator and can work as a moderator even. Some variable. So it can be, it is not necessarily. And even suppose motivation, the relationship, what is the effect of work motivation on employee productivity. So work motivation you are using as independent variable. So work motivation here in garment industry, the author he used it as mediator, and work motivation can be used as a moderator. You got the point, sister? It
Yes, sir, but how do we
some
decide?
variables. Huh?
But how do we decide for a
Okay,
variable when to
it
use it as a
depends
mediator?
how the author, the investigator, investigator, he is assuming to solve his problem, and what is the theory says. If you can match yourself with the theory, and you can take these variables as a this might have a significant moderating effect if you are considering it, and the if you get some the evidence from the previous literature, that will help you to decide either you will use it as moderator, mediator, or independent variable. So when you will do a exclusive literature, then you will find different variables that is been considered as independent variables. Some are considered as moderator, some are considered as mediator. So now for more contribution, you can think that this variable has been used as an independent variable. Why not we look at, is there any moderating effect of this variable or not? Okay, so you can use
Yes, sir.
even simultaneously. One variable can be work as independent variable in the same model. You can use it independent variable, you can use that mediator, and you can use that as a moderator. You got the point, sister? Now the study
Yes, sir.
becomes very
Thank you, sir.
complex. You can use the same variable as independent variable and mediator variable, independent variable and moderator. No issue if you can justify, as long as you can justify your study.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, is it okay? Anybody have any other question?
Yeah, in addition to what she was asking, I have some another question that, okay, now if we consider that is the IV, let us say it's IV. In the literature, in the other studies, previous studies, we found it as a IV. Can we, is it a right justification we say it? No, any other study or lack of studies been considered this is as a DV, because most of the studies have been considered this is an IV. Is it right justification?
No, you cannot use the IV as DV or EA.
No, sorry. Let me say it. Moderator and DV. Let us say.
Moderator and DV. So sorry, brother, you are confused about the dependent variable, independent variable. Actually,
No, it's
your dependent DV is your problem. You understand?
yeah.
And
Yes.
this DV is being influenced by different variables, by independent variables, different factors, independent variables, mediator, moderator. So, brother, if you are considering anything DV, a DV cannot be your moderating variable. It cannot be IV, or it cannot be yeah, mediator. DV is DV. What are the different other variables are influencing this DV? So in that case, sometimes in the same model, sometimes we use IVs as yeah, okay, one variables as IV, as well as mediator also we used in some cases. Even I have some proof that some variables that is been used as moderator and the same model and working as IV. You understand? Not as a DB.
Yeah. That was exactly my question. This is
Yeah,
my
yeah.
question.
You can use, brother.
Yeah.
No issue.
Okay. Thank you.
As
Thank
long
you.
as you have the literature support,
Yes,
and
that's right. That's correct.
the literature as well as theoretical support, and
Yes.
even if you are going for mixed method, in that case, if any expert is talking about there is some moderating effect of these, yeah, so if you have that support as well, that any expert opinion which is come from the qualitative study and never been used in quantitative study, and nobody talk about, there is no literature, but when you are doing the mixed method and you got this variable as a moderator from the expert opinion, so that variables also can be used as moderator or mediator or independent variable. So no issue.
Okay. Thank you very much, doctor.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So okay, development of hypothesis. definition of hypothesis is a logical relationship between two or more variables expressed in the form of testable statement. Examples to write hypothesis. Suppose there is a significant effect of IV on DV. You will write here IV name and on DV. There is a mediating role of, you will give the mediator name in the relationship between IV and DV. And just telling you how to write the moderating hypothesis, mediating and direct relationship. Hypothesis. So just you have the 5 to 10 minutes to ask me about the chapter literature review, where we have discussed literature review, research gap, theoretical, conceptual framework, mediating and moderating variable. If you have questions regarding this, you can ask me, brother.
Thank you, Prof. My question is regarding the hypothesis.
Okay, please.
Yes, which one are we showing in our paper? Is it the null hypothesis or the alternative hypothesis?
Okay.
Because
okay, brother. In earlier time, when the people write their paper, they used right. There is no significant of this. The null hypothesis is like, suppose there is no significant effect of OS on employee performance. Then hypothesis one, alternative hypothesis is OS has a significant effect on employee performance. So nowadays we don't consider the null hypothesis. We always consider the alternative hypothesis. Okay. We never write the null hypothesis. This is redundancy. That's why nobody use this way. If you go through the recent literature and article, you will not find anybody has ever explained the null hypothesis. It is not necessary, brother. It is better always consider the alternate hypothesis. If your alternate hypothesis is not supported, then the null hypothesis is supported. We assume that one.
Please, doctor.
Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Please, to support the rule of moderator variable between independent and dependent variable, I should illustrate the negative relation or the negative effect between this variable.
Can you raise your voice, brother?
Can you hear me now?
Slow. Okay, please again.
Okay, to support the rule of moderator variable, I should illustrate there is a negative or a negative relation between dependent and independent variable.
I don't understand, brother.
Okay, again, doctor, again. To support the rule of moderator variable, okay, I should illustrate the conflict in literature regarding the relation between independent variable and dependent variable.
No, it is not necessary, brother. You will support that this moderator has a significant effect over this independent variable and dependent variable. You have to give the empirical support as well as theoretical support, brother. You understand?
Okay. Yes, I understand.
It is not necessarily when you are considering the third variable, intervening variable, or the moderator, moderating relationship in between the effect on independent and dependent variable, you will just have to give support that the theory telling that as per the theory, the essence of the theory, it is can be considered that this moderator has a significant effect, moderating effect in the relationship between IV and DV, this variable and this variable. Understand?
Okay, doctor. Yes, another question about moderator variable. Doctor, I should support moderator variable by theory.
Theory or
by theory?
empirical empirical evidence you can use.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Jazakallah khairan.
Welcome. Amin. Anybody have any question? Yes, please.
Yes. Sir, I want to ask that it is necessary to find all the related literature regarding the model which we are showing, the relationship between. Sometimes it is difficult to find all the relation in the literature.
Thank you, Sister Saima, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sister Saima, actually, it is not necessarily you will find the empirical evidence. If you have the theoretical support, you can use, no problem.
Thank you, sir. I am clear.
Anybody has any question?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Sir, are bibliometric reviews accepted for thesis?
Yes. Now it is one of the, I think, one of the popular trend to study the bibliometric study. So you can use it, no problem.
So are these accepted, sir? And
yes.
Assalamu alaikum
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, I'm Farouk Mustafa from Nigeria.
Okay, Farouk, Dr. Farouk.
Please, I would like you to shed light on research gap.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Very slow.
Yeah. Research gap.
It's okay. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Please ask your question, brother.
Hello?
Yes, listening.
Please, I said I would like you to shed light on what is known as research gap in the literature review, sir.
Okay. What is your question?
That's my question, sir.
It is breaking. Again, please explain.
Assalamu alaikum. Sir, I would like you to shed light on research gap. What is known as research gap in literature review, sir?
How will you get the research gap in literature review? Okay. In literature review, suppose you are reviewing a particular article. Okay, brother. Now you will look at you will look at the methodology, what the methodology been used. If what the methodology they use, maybe suppose they study the qualitative study. Okay, so you can go for the mixed method or quantitative method. Okay, secondly, if it is quantitative, you can go for the qualitative or mixed method. Secondly, suppose they use the SPSS data analysis tools they use, you can use the same. Okay, you can write that they have used the SPSS tools. Now the more appropriate is the same. There is a gap. So this study, maybe they used a particular theory, the new theory comes that is not been used in that study, so you can consider another study. So they have used two variables, and you can use one mediator or moderator. So you will find, whenever you will find read there. So each and every literature, whenever you will make a literature matrix, in that matrix you will find each and every paper, they have their own limitations. You will summarize those limitations, and based on that limitations, that is the gaps. And they have, based on that limitation, they have given the future research directives. And based on that future research, maybe somebody already been studied, somebody not been studied. So literature review, so future research directives is also you will get the gaps from there as well. So as I told you, there are different others. Suppose somebody get the positive relationship and somebody gets get the negative relationship, but in your context you say there is a gap because there is a contextual gap. You don't know either positive or negative. So lagging in methodology, inappropriate in methodology, or different, as I told you, if you look at here, you will get your gaps here. From future research directives, you will get your, then systematic literature review, you will, if you go for systematic literature review, you will get the gap. Then you will get the gap. Then meta-analysis, if you do the meta-analysis, you will get the gap. Systematic literature review, then conflict in findings, conflict in methodology, lagging in methodology, contextual gap, theoretical gap, and up to date. Here if you do the literature review, if you summarize those, and you will get the gaps, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you.
Amen.
Sir, I have a question, please.
Yes, please.
Sir, I just want to know that when we do literature review and we collect too much literature for our study, it is difficult to systemize and organize it. Is there any way which can help us to organize our literature review?
Yes, very nice question. Who is this, please?
Humaira.
Okay, sister, you're from India, right, sister?
Pakistan.
Okay. Okay, Sister Humaira, as I told you, this is the most appropriate things if you are, when you are reviewing the literature, if you use the literature metrics, suppose the article number 1, and what is the title of the article, then research objectives, methodology been used, independent variables been used, then theory used, what was their findings, what was their findings, and you can give your what was their limitations, what was the future research directives. If you write like this, and lastly you will write their critical review of this article. Now you briefly you will write about this. So suppose they have used two independent variables or three independent variables. So you will write there they have used these independent variables, but they left these variables that are also assuming this has a influence on these dependent variables. Okay, they have used this mediator, but they left these variables as they did not consider these variables as mediator. Then methodology, you criticize that article, then you will find the gap, you will find your review statement. So that is your point to write something about that article. You understand? If you make some points against of that article, or strong, even not always criticize, but you can focus, they have studies this, that was their findings, but our focus is in this area, like this.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So it is already 2:36. Can we take half an hour break, and then we can start chapter 3, 4, and 5. We will, yeah, because I have to go for we can take half. We can exactly at 3 o'clock in Bangladeshi time. 3 o'clock. 25 minutes later, we can come back again, inshallah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Kindly get us notified on the WhatsApp, please.